The detention cell on Zephyr Station hummed with the low vibration of artificial gravity generators. Marcus Chen sat cross-legged on the metal bench, his weathered hands resting calmly on his knees. The human cargo hauler had been arrested 3 hours ago for what the Galactic Trade Council called unlawful interference in sanctioned commerce. What Marcus called it was stopping slavers from hauling away a shipment of Terran children. The cell door hissed open, and Warden Kexthor entered with his usual swagger. The Vraxian stood nearly 8 feet tall, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh lights. 4 arms ending in razor-sharp claws hung at his sides while his compound eyes fixed on the seated human with undisguised contempt. "Human," Kexthor clicked, his translator rendering the words with mechanical precision. "You have caused considerable trouble." Marcus looked up slowly, his brown eyes meeting the alien's gaze without flinching. "Those kids didn't belong in cargo holds. They were legally acquired property," the Vraxian hissed, his mandibles clicking. Irritably, "The consortium had proper documentation. The consortium can kiss my—" Kexthor's upper right arm lashed out faster than most beings could track, intending to strike the human across the face and establish dominance. In his species culture, a show of overwhelming force was the quickest way to break a prisoner's spirit. The clawed appendage connected with Marcus's jaw with a sound like metal striking stone. For a heartbeat, silence filled the cell. Then Kexthor's triumphant expression melted into confusion as a sharp crack echoed through the chamber. The Vraxian stared in disbelief at his arm, which now bent at an unnatural angle halfway between his elbow and wrist. The chitinous shell had splintered, revealing the pale flesh beneath. Marcus worked his jaw experimentally and spat a small amount of blue alien blood onto the floor. "That all you got?" Kexthor shrieked, a sound like grinding metal that sent shivers through the station's hull. He stumbled backward, cradling his broken limb against his thorax. "Impossible. No creature can withstand Vraxian strength." "Yeah, well." Marcus stood up, rolling his shoulders with casual indifference. "You clearly haven't met many humans." The warden's remaining 3 arms trembled as he backed toward the cell door. His compound eyes reflected a mixture of pain, fear, and dawning realization. What are you?" Marcus tilted his head, considering the question. "Just a guy who grew up on a heavy world colony. Terra's got about 1 g of gravity, but Kepler 442b? That's where I spent my first 20 years. 3 times Earth gravity, thin atmosphere, and storms that could strip paint off a hull." He flexed his hands, the knuckles popping audibly. "Tends to build character and bone density." Kexthor's translator struggled with the rapid breathing that indicated severe distress in his species. "The archives, they said humans were weak, fragile, short-lived vermin from a backwater world." "Archives can be wrong," Marcus replied, taking a step forward. The Vraxian immediately pressed himself against the far wall. "See, the thing about humans is we adapt. Put us on a high-gravity world, and our bones get denser. Put us in a thin atmosphere, and our lungs get stronger. Put us in a dangerous place, and we get mean." The human's voice remained conversational, but something in his eyes made Kexthor's remaining arms shake. "Now, about those kids. I'm thinking there's been a misunderstanding about whose property they were. The consortium will demand compensation," Kexthor stammered, his broken arm sending waves of agony through his nervous system. "You cannot simply—" "Can't I?" Marcus interrupted. "Because from where I'm standing it looks like the station's warden just had an unfortunate accident while trying to assault a prisoner. Might be he should be more careful about who he picks fights with." Through the cell's small window, the distant hum of docking clamps indicated a ship's arrival. Marcus smiled, the expression somehow more unsettling than his earlier calm. "That'll be the UES Redemption. Captain Martinez doesn't much care for slavers either." Kexthor's compound eyes widened as the implications sank in. The United Earth Service had been gaining influence in this sector, their ships appearing wherever human interests were threatened. Their diplomats spoke softly, but their Marines carried very large guns. "The Trade Council will not stand for this interference." he managed. The Trade Council, Marcus said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. We'll learn that there are some lines you don't cross. Hurting kids is one of them. The detention center's alarms began to wail as heavy boots echoed through the corridors outside. Kexthor looked at his broken arm, then at the human who had shattered it with nothing more than bone and flesh. How? He whispered. Marcus shrugged. Evolution's funny that way. You spend a few million years climbing out of the gravity well of a world that's trying to kill you, and you end up with bodies that can take a beating. We're not the strongest species in the galaxy, or the fastest, or the smartest. His eyes hardened. But we're stubborn as hell and we don't break easy. The cell door burst open as human marines in powered armor swept in, their weapons trained on the cowering Vraxian. Captain Martinez, a stern woman with graying temples, surveyed the scene with professional detachment. Mr. Chen, are you injured? Nothing serious, Marcus replied, wiping alien blood from his lip. The warden here was just explaining how there'd been a clerical error about those kids. Martinez looked at Kexthor's broken arm, then back at Marcus. Clerical error? Turns out they're not cargo after all, Marcus said with a slight smile. Funny how paperwork can get mixed up. As the Marines escorted the whimpering Vraxian away, Captain Martinez shook her head in amusement. Marcus, you can't keep solving diplomatic incidents with your fists. Work this time, he replied, gathering his few possessions from the cell. Besides, he started it. Through the station's viewports, a dozen human freighters could be seen approaching the docks. Word traveled fast in space, and Earth's merchant marine had a long memory for those who threatened their own. Kexthor, being loaded into a medical transport, cast one last terrified glance at the human who had broken his arm simply by existing. In his species' databases, they would need to update the files on humanity. Fragile, the records had said. Weak. As consciousness faded under the medical team's sedatives, Kexthor's last coherent thought was that someone had been very, very wrong. In the years that followed, the incident at Zephyr Station would become legend among the species of the Outer Rim. The story would grow in the telling, as stories do, but the core truth would remain. Humanity had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. They had bones like iron, wills like steel, and a stubborn refusal to stay down when knocked over. And they really, really didn't like it when someone threatened their children.